Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about, well, what shouldn't really be huge news or considered huge news, but for some reason it is, which is that the state legislature of Tennessee expelled a couple of its members for breaking their own legislative rules while debating about gun violence. So what happened is that there was a horrific event that took place in Nashville, the Music City, where 3 kids and 3 teachers were shot and killed by a deranged lunatic who opened fire at a Catholic school. And if you're new to the channel, we are not going to name this individual. We are not going to show his face, although I am respecting his pronouns. Every time we talk about these situations, I don't show the face, I don't name the person, unless it's where I have to talk about the individual. But usually on the channel, we're not naming him, we're not showing his face, so we're not going to be doing that here. Hashtag no notoriety. But of course, just like every time when a tragedy like this happens, we always get mass cries for gun control and gun reform and stricter gun laws, and unfortunately, instead of saying rest in peace to the victims or our thoughts are with this community in Nashville, we got a wave of people making this a political issue right after it happens. But this time, what we are seeing is something that we haven't seen since Parkland 5 years ago, where we see these waves of anti-gun kids coming out to the state capitol and demanding their state ban guns or pass strict gun laws or raise the age to 21 or red flag laws. You know what I mean? But it really depends on where it happens. If it's in a red state, then it's state policy. But if it's in a blue state, then it's federal policy. So it really depends on where it happens. But in this case of what we're seeing in Tennessee, you have kids going into the Capitol building in Nashville and screaming at politicians while debates are going on, calling them Nazis, fascists, child killers, and whatnot. By the way, I do want to point something out before we move on. If you look at all these kids in Tennessee right now, screaming and breaking into the state capitol, why is it that so many of these people in my Generation Z in their late teens and early 20s, usually the leftoid ones, why is it that despite being in their teens, they already look like they're pushing 50? Like with the receding hairlines and the gray hair and the wrinkles and shit like that. Like, I've got less wrinkles than David Hogg, and we're literally like a year apart from one another. Like, I'm a full year younger than David Hogg. We're literally born on the same month. He's 23, and I'm turning 22 in a couple of weeks. Like, I'm a full year younger than he is, and I look way younger in comparison, despite being in the same generation. Generation Z, that is. Like, what is it with this people? Is it like a protein deficiency or something like that? Is it too much soy intake? Is it the lack of vitamins and, you know, you're eating too much hot Cheetos and Takis? Because all you guys eat are hot Cheetos and Takis and drink soy nowadays. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's the outside trying to match the inside. You can call me old timer and make fun of me, but at least I'm a rare breed in my generation being one of the smart ones here. I'm literally the adult in the room here. So anyway, what happened is that a few state legislatures were partaking in these protests, and they were disrupting pro-gunners from debating and showing their sides, shouting in the megaphone. This is called the heckler's veto, and as a result, those 2 legislatures were expelled. 3 House members, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, I think were their names, they were expelled by the Tennessee legislature. Now, if this was the first time you were hearing this news, ignoring literally what I said earlier, you might be asking, what were they expelled for and why? Now, if you look at the legacy media and you only have time to read a couple of sentences or just look at the headline, you probably think that they were expelled for participating in a protest while black. Seriously, go and look at Twitter and look at some of the tweets people put out. And by the way, if you have community notes on and enabled, prepare to be flooded with a bunch of fact-checking on these tweets about this. Nearly all of the legacy media reported. So at first glance, when you look at these articles, especially when you look at the headline only, you would believe that several members in the Tennessee House were expelled because they took part in the protest of gun violence, and to cap it all off, the move is racist and Republicans are Nazis because they happen to be black individuals. That's not really what happened, though. If you dig 2 or 3 paragraphs deeper and you actually analyze and look closer to what actually happened, like 99% of people don't have the attention span or the time to do so, you'll find out exactly why they were expelled, and this has been a story for several days now, up until the vote of expulsion. What happened is that these 2 individuals weren't just protesting, they were using the heckler's veto, and they happened to do it within the chamber itself. They were breaking their own rules, they were breaching their own code, and they essentially were preventing normal business in the legislative fashion from being issued and from being done. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what a heckler's veto is, which I assume is most of you guys watching this, a heckler's veto is a situation in which a party who disagrees with a speaker's message is able to unilaterally trigger events that result in the speaker being silenced. For example, a heckler can disrupt a speech to the point where that speech is canceled. As far as I'm aware, this doesn't really exist outside of the US. Maybe other countries have some form of it, one way or another, but it's definitely more common here in the United States than anywhere else. Now, my thoughts on this is not allowed to be done, and should not be allowed to be done, regardless of political party. Nobody should be allowed to disrupt people's speech by shouting slogans and calling the person out while they're speaking. It's not fair to the speaker, it's not fair to the people listening, it's not fair to the independents who want to know what's going on. A heckler's veto should not be tolerated. Unfortunately, in this country nowadays, people have become so terminally online that even the littlest things that they see wrong, they'll just resort to calling you a Nazi, and you can't have a healthy debate nowadays. And in hindsight, you'll end up having a situation like I made a video about it before with the digital blackface bullshit from being written. And I don't think a heckler's veto is even allowed in the Tennessee state legislature, at least that I know of. Anybody living in Tennessee, please let me know. But at the same time, for allowing protesters to disrupt an act of legislation being debated, that should not be allowed. So I kinda understand and respect the decision that they make. Round of applause to the Tennessee legislature, by the way. It's good that you actually had the balls to do this, knowing beforehand that because these individuals happen to have black skin, you are going to get called a bunch of hooded Klansmen and the party of racist Nazis just by doing that alone. And that's just how it works. I don't know how many times all of us have to keep saying this, but Republicans are not Nazis. You literally see people calling this neo-Jim Crow. You see these people calling this neo-segregation, making up their own terms. They're comparing Tennessee to apartheid South Africa. How in the world is that even remotely fucking comparable? Governor Bill Lee is literally Hitler because he doesn't want to ban guns. He's refusing to pass gun control laws because he's a Nazi. Of course, there was one politician from Tennessee's Southern Brethren in Georgia who called and compared the Republicans to the white Rhodesians of Zimbabwe, but most people would like to call the Republicans the equivalent of the Nazis in Germany or the Southern Dixiecrats in the late 19th century, even though that's far from the case. Point simple, Republicans are not Nazis. Republicans are not white supremacists. End of story. By the way, in response to what's been going on in Tennessee, follow Andy No on Twitter if you want to see and keep up to date on what's going on over here. But in response to the expulsion of several House members in the Tennessee legislature who were heckling on the House floor, who were participating in a protest where protesters were not allowed in the building during active legislative proceedings, shouting Nazi fascist in the megaphone nonstop while the other person is talking, not even giving him a chance to debate. In response to what happened, some people are going as far as threatening arson. Yeah, some people actually said that. I think it's about time that states should actually crack down on violent rioting in general. States should finally legalize certain actions when people are, blocking the road, smashing windows, setting shit on fire. I won't get into too much detail about it because, well, it's a YouTube video, and I don't want to risk getting demonetized, or worse, getting booted, obviously. But it is about time that we actually do punish members of certain government bodies in some form when they act like this. If people are gonna act like a bunch of peevish children while protesting, well, children aren't supposed to be holding office. Act like a kid, be treated like a kid. That's how it works. I know I'm sounding a little bit too harsh here, but I'm usually a very nice dude IRL, and almost rarely have problems with anybody. But I try my best to treat everybody as nicely as I can, and when I'm saying things like this, I don't mean to be harsh. Just follow your own rules and don't act like a douche. If I see Republicans doing something wrong and acting like idiots, I'd call them out too. Nobody is immune to criticism here, just so we are aware. It doesn't matter what skin color that you have. Go ahead, call them a racist. Get called a Nazi for following your own rules and disavowing people screaming at megaphones while the other person is debating their own point across in the Tennessee State House during a proceeding. This is the left you're dealing with. They think everybody's a racist. They don't just think the Republicans are racist. They don't just think whites are racist. They also think that the Democrats are racist. They think the United States as a whole is racist. Hell, they even think that half of their fellow leftoid libtards are racist because, you know, they had an opinion like 10 or 15 years ago on Tumblr or Reddit that no longer happens to be popular amongst Marxists or something like that. No matter what you do, you are going to be called a racist Nazi by the left, whether that be for passing voter laws, refusing to pass gun control laws, or making the right move by punishing people who are disrupting a debate. That's just how it works. Now, one thing I do agree with the left on only is expulsion. I mean, there are other ways, technically speaking, you could have dealt with the situation. Maybe a temporary suspension. The only way I'd go for expulsion if this was like a repeat offender of some sort. You know, they kept doing it over and over again. Suspension would be nice, but an expulsion? Yeah. Doesn't seem like the very greatest look, but who really fucking cares? Tennessee is a red state. They're not going blue anytime soon, no matter how hard these Generation Z voters are going to vote against them. Remember, some of these individuals who are breaking into the Tennessee House screaming fascist and Nazi, a lot of these individuals are terminally online anyway. Some of these people are too young to vote anyway. Most of the time, these people don't even know how firearms work. They haven't shot a gun before. They haven't spoken to an actual gun owner before. They haven't used one, haven't seen one in action before, and are too young to own and operate a firearm anyway. Just deal with it. Let them say all of their bullshit hogwash online. That's essentially their echo chamber. They're just terminally online individuals that think that the internet is more serious than real life. They run Tumblr, or in this case, TikTok. So let them go online and let them, you know, bitch and complain nonstop and talk about issues that aren't really issues in the real world to begin with on TikTok. And in the real world, punish them when they do stuff like this. If I show up at a protest of some sort and I start shouting through a megaphone random slogans nonstop, or shouting Nazi Nazi, or you're a fascist, or in my case, you're a commie or globalist, simply because I dislike what the person is saying, I'm not getting anything across other than I disagree with you. Well, you can say that you disagree with somebody and wander out, or you can debate the point. Explain to them why you are disagreeing with them. You don't have the right to prevent the other person from saying things that you disagree with, or pull out the racist thing or Nazi thing if they try to attempt to debate you. Hasn't that fucking shtick gotten a little bit goddamn old? Can people actually debate on the House floor? Can judges actually go through their proceedings? Can Senate members actually talk to one another and debate each other without using a megaphone and bringing protesters to scream Nazi fascists at them? I mean, come on, fuck me. Not a whole lot of left to fight for. If we can't establish, like, you know, the basic fucking principles of interpolitical debate in a legislative session without people dragging out Nazi or saying that everybody that I don't like is literally Hitler, meanwhile, people are complaining why we are so divided and why no progress is ever done despite all the problems that we've been having in this country. Well, no fucking shit. What do you think is gonna happen? I mean, what do you even talk about at this point? People are really just overreacting on this whole expulsion situation. If you look at any of the mainline articles on this from the legacy media, it's the two black legislatures were expelled by a bunch of evil, racist, Republican Nazi Klansmen, all just for the simple act of protesting against gun violence. And while we're on the topic of gun violence, I made a whole video about this, 40-minute video by the way, I believe it's one of my longest videos on the channel, going completely in depth as to why I'm against the whole gun control argument. As I stated before, a lot of these people don't really have any rudiments on how guns work. There are old Winchester and Remington rifles used in World War I that have a higher caliber than an AR-15 or any post-World War II rifle, like the AK-47. Rifles used by the Ottoman Empire and Austria-Hungary have a higher caliber than the modern ARs and AKs that we're all familiar with, which nowadays are either used as collector's items by history junkies fascinated with World War I, or by hunters. Regardless of where the gun originated from, World War I sniper rifles are actually very fun to use for hunting. I don't need to explain too much, but I'll leave that video pinned in the upper right hand corner in the eye icon if you want to check it out yourself. So these two legislatures were not kicked out because they were black protesting about gun violence. Republicans are not Nazis for doing what they did. Did they go a little too far for expelling? Yeah, you could say that. You know, a suspension would also make sense. But the Republicans are not simply Nazis or fascists for refusing to pass gun control laws or kicking out members of their own party for coming in with a bullhorn calling them Nazis. I guess the idea is that they're calling them fascists because, you know, they're banning critical race theory from schools, but not guns. Even though critical race theory is comprised of racist horseshit and factually and historically incorrect information, there is no reason for it to be taught, yet because guns are not banned in the state, yeah, I guess that's why they're being called fascists. Even though, just so we know, it was the fascists that took guns away from the civilians, if you look at history, you know what I mean? You know, I don't know. But with that being said, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below, and if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the little notification bell. Be sure to follow me on all my social medias, links are in the description below. Don't forget to follow me on all my new tech sites. Those links will be in the description below with my social media. Share this video around with your friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, enemies, whomever. Definitely helps me out a lot, helps the video grow, and helps grow the channel if you share this video around if you can. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section down below whether this was actually the right decision or whether or not this was the wrong decision, or if something should have been done differently with these two legislatures. I always end the conversation down to you, so don't forget to leave all your thoughts down below. I support free speech, so feel free if you disagree with me on what I said to let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to join the Discord server if you want to hang out, chit-chat, play video games with me, or send me some news tips and video ideas on what to cover. My DMs are open there, so it is a great way to get into contact with me. But anyways, guys, like, subscribe, ring notifications, and until then, take care, talk soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.